y'all doing?
Good, Senator. How about you?
Doing great.
How was your trip?
I'm doing good. I'm home. Hi, Susan. How are you? Yeah. Just say I had a very, very good meeting with the president, in which we discussed the consequences of the decision that President Karzai made yesterday. He believes, and I believe, and I know Secretary Clinton shares this because we've talked about it previously, that this represents a very significant moment where Afghanistan has an opportunity to be able to reestablish the credibility of its governance and begin to move on a number of challenges that are critical to whatever the United States decisions are with respect to troops, Al-Qaeda, or anything else that we're involved in. As I said yesterday, what will really define the importance of what happened yesterday will be the decisions that are made and the actions that are taken over the course of these next few weeks. I do believe that what I learned in Afghanistan and Pakistan confirmed to me overwhelmingly, without any doubt, that the president has been absolutely correct to take this time in order to allow some of these events to unfold and in order to be able to examine our strategy. I personally do not believe the strategy is defined merely by numbers of troops. That is the wrong focus, though numbers of troops will be important to a strategy. The strategy is focused on our ability to be able to have the Afghans themselves take control of this future. And the rate at which that can happen is critical. So the question of governance and the question of development, which are the two other critical legs of the stool of counterinsurgency, are not yet fully vetted in this process, and I think are absolutely essential to the president's decision. Let me say this also. I went down to the south of Afghanistan. I visited with the troops in Helmand, the Marines who are down there. I went to Camp Leatherneck. I went to Gamshir, where I met with 275 elders, Afghan elders, who are working with those Marines. And there is no question in my mind whatsoever about the capacity of our troops to do what they've been asked to do. They can provide additional security. The question is, what comes in underneath that security? And that requires governance, it requires civilian assistance and development, and civilian expertise. That's what we have to provide. So that was, that remains the key to any kind of decision. I think it's a decision that can be made, in short term, in the next weeks or a month or so. I also believe it's a decision that ought to engage our allies. This is not just an American decision. It's a decision that ought to be approved of and even announced together with all of our allies in NATO, as well as significantly whoever the next president of Afghanistan is. We're now in a position to have a legitimate next president of Afghanistan, and that is a very significant step with respect to the possibilities. So I think Americans should be pleased that this decision is going to be made in an orderly, thoughtful, and substantive way. And I personally am proud of the way that my colleagues and others are engaged in this debate.
Senator, do you think that the president should wait until there's a result in the runoff, or can the decision about troop levels, is it enough that he's agreed to a runoff?
I think it's critical to have a runoff. It's a 2-week period. I think you really want to know that this has worked, and you want to know what kind of government is coming out of it. So I think that's again why this is a very important period of time, and I would absolutely counsel the president to wait till the end of the runoff.
Is there any discussion at all about a possible power-sharing agreement, no matter who wins, between Abdullah and
There was discussion in Kabul about this, but not by me. I was very careful to stay away from the United States being involved in a brokering prior to any kind of election results. I think that would have undermined the democratic process. It would have given Afghans a sense that the United States is calling the shots, and we want to avoid that, always. I thought this was a critical decision to be made by the president of Afghanistan, and it has credibility as a consequence. I also met with Dr. Abdullah. I did not just meet with President Karzai. And when I left, I talked to Dr. Abdullah, and it's my understanding that even today there may have been some conversation between the two of them. But I specifically did not discuss, nor did I even attempt to put on the table the concept of a coalition. That would have been inappropriate.
Did you have a premonition of this kind of a role developing for yourself? And when did you realize that you were becoming an almost de facto Secretary of State or high-level envoy?
Well, that's an unfair characterization, and I don't want, I don't think that's an appropriate de facto, whatever. I was in touch with Secretary Clinton constantly. I appreciate the way in which she embraced my role. We talked frequently. I thought it was important that I not take steps in some freelancing way that wasn't appropriate to the administration's policy. And she encouraged me to stay at it and to be engaged in it. And I think we worked as an effective team. So it's not the first time that I've been engaged in it. I've been 26 years on the Foreign Relations Committee. I negotiated at great length as chairman of the Select Committee on POW/MIA with Vietnam, eventually leading to our normalization. I've been deeply involved in global climate change negotiations in Kyoto and elsewhere, and I've been deeply involved in the Central American War with the Contras and other things, as well as negotiating in Massachusetts. So, it was frankly lucky that I'd planned a fact-finding mission. The crisis arose while I was there, and it was fortuitous that I was able to be there and play this role.
Senator, you said you would counsel the president to wait until after the runoff to make his decision. Did you, in fact, counsel him in that way, and how did he respond?
The question didn't come up specifically. I don't know. I didn't ask the president what his schedule is, but I would suspect that he will be interested. I just as a matter of common sense, he's going to want to know what kind of government he's got to deal with in Afghanistan before he makes a decision. So I'd be surprised if he isn't on the same wavelength.
Does President Karzai give you any assurances about combating fraud in this next election to make it different than the last one?
President Karzai asked us for assurances that we help work to guarantee that there is not a repetition of what happened in the last election. And I know the ambassador is working excuse me. I know that Ambassador Eikenberry is working, even as we speak today, to bring people together in order to learn the lessons of the last election, to bring the various election commissions together, and to do the best thing possible to try to guarantee that there's no repeat. That said, let me be clear with everybody. This is a very tough environment in which to hold an election. And there are some serious security risks, which we all understand. Soldiers lost their lives in the last round trying to protect the right of Afghans to vote. Our military is moving, even right now, appropriately to prepare for this runoff. And I salute those soldiers. I mean, I cannot ever say enough about the quality of the young men and women that I had a chance to meet with over there, and many that I didn't, obviously. They are doing an extraordinary job. What I began to see, though, when I was there, and I will talk about this on Friday in my speech to the Council on Foreign Relations, I began to see a way that we can do this, what we need to do. Let me say it the right way. There is a strategy to protect America's interests and to further our goals in the region, which I think can be achievable, but it's going to require really some recalibration. And that's what the president is looking for here. I talked with him about that in there. I'm not going to go into the details of that now, but I think we need to stay focused on the real choices here that will achieve our national security interests, and I think there are ways to do that.
Considering the resources that we had for the first round election, do we have enough security forces there to secure?
I think
do we have enough resources there? Should we do something?
Well, let me make it under the election rules. The primary responsibility for security is with the Afghan security forces. And we are there to be in support of the Afghan security forces. So we need to make sure that the Afghan security forces are doing everything in their power and that we are supporting them.